Hello, everyone. Oh, you are ready. Then that'll never happen on Saturday and Sunday. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2024 SABR Analytics Conference. It's great to be back at Arizona State University, and I want to thank their sports law and business program for their partnership in putting on this year's conference and providing us this beautiful venue. Included in that are the AV capabilities that we have in this space, which are allowing us to stream the conference to more than 300 students joining us from across the world. So wave up in the corner there, say hello to everybody who's joining us on the stream. So a few wayfinding details about the space. You'll find restrooms behind the seating of the Great Hall here on the first floor. You can get to those from the hallways on either side of me right here. If you feel like this room is a little too crowded for you, or you just need to step away for a minute to take care of something, go to room 240 up there on the mezzanine. We're also streaming the conference into that room, so you wouldn't miss anything if you need to step in. We've also got a few of our partners who are setting up shop there throughout the weekend if you want to have a conversation. If you need help finding your way around the facility or needing information about the conference, please find some of our staff moving around: Jacob Pomeranke, Scott Carter, Jessica Smith, Ken Carano. Thanks for all their help throughout the weekend. As discussions and presentations conclude this weekend, we will take questions from the audience by tossing you this mic. So the StatCast crew actually was in here earlier, so we're measuring everything that you all do. And so expect a pretty long Twitter thread from Tom Tango after this is over. Now, part of what he's going to do is going to be brevity of question. So just keep that in mind as well. But you want to go first? That's a minus. Yeah. That's a minus. Should have practiced that before. Needed a warm up. So while this time is set aside for the conference welcome, we've actually already held programming for a day and a half. Yesterday, all of our student attendees were able to participate in sessions designed to help them develop their skill sets as well as network with one another. I'd like to thank Sports Info Solutions for their support of that programming, along with Sean Lehman of SABR, Jonah Gardner and Zoe Surma of Baseball Reference, Shauna Shee of Major League Baseball, David Highland of Xavier University, Nick Riccardi of Syracuse University, and Nick Wan of the Cincinnati Reds for sharing their knowledge with the students. Earlier today, 15 high school and college team students competed in the Diamond Dollars case competition. Some of you already heard the announcement about the winners of that. Thanks to SABR Analytics Conference co-founder and MLB consultant Vince Gennaro for organizing the competition. You can catch an encore presentation from the winning team from Syracuse tomorrow morning. Over the next 3 days, we will enjoy 15 research presentations spanning a wide range of baseball-relevant research domains. We will also hear from a variety of personalities from throughout the industry during panel discussions, which will dissect some of the most topical issues in the game today. We'll also spend time celebrating the contributions and work of researchers with the SABR Analytics Conference Research Awards and the SABR Analytics Conference Lifetime Achievement Award. Of course, the weekend would not be complete without the opportunity to network with one another. I hope you'll join us tonight, as well as Saturday and Sunday morning for organized networking sessions, in addition to catching up during the downtime throughout the conference. I'd like to point out two groups of students joining us this weekend. First, the Yoseloff Scholars. You guys can raise your hands throughout. We've got Bria Losick, Ellie Mortensen, Adam Niebel, and Angelo Scott. These students are attending thanks to the generosity of the Nanar and Anthony Yoseloff Foundation. I also want to welcome our Sarah Lang Scholarship recipients, Amelia Moore, Abby Poole, and Anika Pafali. These students are joining us in celebration of our friend Sarah Lang's and thanks to the generosity of the Gennaro Family Foundation. So welcome to all of you. All right, so before we get started today, there are a host of organizations and individuals I'd like to thank for helping make this event possible. First, thanks to our presenting sponsors, Rawlings and Major League Baseball. Part of Major League Baseball's support provides scholarships to attend the conference virtually and in person to more than 150 participants from MLB's Diversity Pipeline program. Welcome to all of you. I'd also like to thank our supporting sponsors, Sports Info Solutions, Baseball Reference, SMT, the University of Pacific's Eberhart School of Management, CIMI, Cleat Street Capital, Syracuse University's Falk College of Sport and Human Dynamics, DVS Baseball, and this session's sponsor, Kinetrax. And thanks to our team sponsors, the Arizona Diamondbacks, Chicago Cubs, Cincinnati Reds, Cleveland Guardians, and Colorado Rockies. The SABR Analytics Conference Research Awards are supported by the efforts of the editorial teams at Fangraphs and Baseball Prospectus, as well as the IBWAA. Of course, none of this would exist without research presentations. Thanks to our research presentation selection committee, led by Sports Info Solutions and committee members Joe Rosales, Mark Simon, Sarah Thompson, Graham Goldbeck, Phil Birnbaum, Meg Rowley, Louis Paulus, Meredith Wills, Harry Pavlidis, and Jason Thiemanson. So 5 minutes of thank yous later, without further ado, it's time to start the 2024 SABR Analytics Conference. To kick off our event, please welcome MLB Network's Brian Kenny.
We good? We good. Let me take a picture of you all. So my wife asked me, does anybody show up these things that you speak at? And I would say, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's good to be back. Good to be back in person, not Zooming. I'll put this down toward me over here. I noticed the room has gotten younger already than it has been in a few years. And we haven't been here since the pandemic, actually the day the pandemic broke. But it makes sense that it's gotten younger. I don't know how many of you know, but when we first started this thing, and maybe a few years back before that, if you didn't play Major League Baseball, you didn't have any shot of working in Major League Baseball for a team. All these things, I met the Sarah Lang scholars that were here, and they're looking to work in Major League Baseball. They have a real shot. You have a chance now. And not that long ago, you had no chance. If you didn't play Major League Baseball, the odds were against you. Maybe if you played high-level minor league baseball, maybe you could get in. Other than that, they did not want to hear from you. And now you and your ilk have taken over. There's no question. And look, it's fantastic. I remember having conversations even when we started Clubhouse Confidential and MLB Now and MLB Network. And that was only 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Before that, I was on ESPN for 14 years, you know, banging the drum for analytics and sabermetrics, and nobody really wanted to hear it. But I remember having conversations with Rob Nyer, Joe Sheehan, guys like that, and say, what happens when we all agree? What happens when there isn't this schism between the old culture and then the new wave that believed in the relationship between data and the physical world? What happens then? And I think we're there. And on one hand, it's fantastic. We can have arguments within narrow parameters, but we also have to be aware of where we're headed and the way we think. I'll give you some examples. I know we do a show called Top 10 Right Now. Anybody watch Top 10 Right Now? We rank every position in baseball. Thank you. We rank every position. The shredder. The shredder is the objective methodology, which is just our own formula, a little slight progression model. But it's just looking at the basic stats that we all value. But it was revolutionary at the time. It was controversial at the time. And the shredder would churn out a list that would be vastly different from the Major League Baseball analyst list. And that's when we started bringing in, we had Bill James as our sabermetric analyst at the very beginning. Then later we would bring in Vince Gennaro, Sarah Langs, Mike Petriello. They make up our sabermetric super panel because I wanted a wonky group that would bring in some of the analytics and have things, more with an objective methodology. And we, of course, would have our player analyst.
and then we'd have the fan vote, and we'd have the shredder, and we'd have my list. And over the last 3-4 years, all of our lists are just about identical. So we're all there, but are we any more right? I don't know if we are. I think we're better than we used to be. I think we rank better. I think when you see MVP votes or Cy Young Award votes, essentially get them right, and there's a good debate. It used to be very controversial, but we really don't take many chances. I'll give you an example. We had a general manager tell me that he sent out his head of analytics, his head of scouting, and his farm director and said, come back to me and bring me our list of our top prospects. That's an individual organization. Give me a list of our prospects in order. I want to see how you all evaluate them. And they all came back with the same lists. And the general manager said, if all three of you have the same list, why am I employing all three of you? Something to think about. This year, on Top 10 right now, we introduced a wild card pick. In fact, I required a wild card pick because we all thought we were smarter than everyone else. We don't compare our lists ahead of time. Then we come in and we had the exact same list, essentially. You'd get cute with one guy here or there, you'd take a flyer, but essentially we'd come in with the same lists. This year, I said, we know we're not going to be 100% right. You know you're not going to be right. So take a flyer on somebody. For example, only Sarah Langs last year had Garrett Cole in her top 10. Now, Garrett Cole didn't deserve to be in the top 10, but as I kept pointing out, somebody should believe in Garrett Cole. We had an analyst come in for our left field meeting because we tape our shows individually. We do our sabermetric super panel on 1 or 2 days, but we have each show individually day by day. And this player who came in, he's recently off the field, he's popular, he's outspoken, he's opinionated. He came in and he said, I've got Christian Yelich in at number 7. And I said, and a bunch of our researchers said, oh, wow, good. Nobody has Christian Yelich in their top 10. You know, he took Christian Yelich out of his top 10. That's the power of the herd. And that's something that transcends baseball. There are repercussions from straying from your herd. We all want to think alike. There's a tendency for groupthink. There's a tendency to think in that same herd mentality, that same herd that was keeping analytics out of baseball for so long because they did not want to hear about your fancy math. Now it's been replaced by another herd mentality, another groupthink. So we instituted the wild card now, and I had to say too, no social media shaming. We will not make fun of you. You cannot be made fun of. Just come out and say, I have this guy number 2. I had that Matt McClain number 2 from the Cincinnati Reds, behind only Mookie Betts, because I could not construct a world where he'd be better than Mookie Betts this year. But everybody else, yeah, I could. So, take a chance. Think for yourself. Take a shot. We had to force ourselves, even in an analytics show about baseball, to think outside our own little box that we've constructed. So here's another example. The challenge is still to think critically and independently, not just like anybody else. Data is an abstraction of the real world, but it's not the real world, as we can see with what happened last year in 2023. We have the first slide. Here we go. These are what I call the malaise teams. Malaise is sort of an odd discomfort. You don't know quite what it is, but it kind of affected all of these clubs. All of these teams we thought would be pretty good. I know the White Sox in retrospect, they stink, right? But we kind of knew. But a lot of people thought they might win the division. They're a lot of power. They're only 2 years removed from 93 wins. Guardians, they were the youngest team in the playoffs the year before. Also, contact, defense, speed. They had it all going on. They pushed the Yankees to 5 games the year before. They were supposed to be good. The new rules were supposed to be built for this club. The Mariners were a team also ascending, supposed to be very good. Got off to a slow start. They're the one team that slapped the malaise, that finally got out of it. They won 88 games, but they missed the playoffs. The Mets, number 1 payroll in the history of baseball. Easy to see now. Oh, they were so old. Their pitching staff, we didn't know it at the time. Padres, inexplicable. Still makes no sense. Cardinals hadn't had a losing year. Right? Cardinals hadn't had a losing year in 15 years. Easy to look back now and say, oh, man, 20 games under 500. They're terrible. We did not know that. All of these teams, it didn't make sense. Now, again, in the olden times, we could look back at a team that, they got Eddie Murray, they got Bobby Bonilla, they got all these guys. It turns out they were 34, 35 years old. It made sense in retrospect. That wasn't working in baseball. That was not these teams. That was not the Padres. That was not their problem. Take a look at the San Diego Padres last year and their rankings and where they were in Major League Baseball. 30 clubs, not the National League, 15 clubs, 30 teams. What do I got to do? How do I switch? Is it up? I got to do this. Which one? Forward? There we go. ERA or ERA. I did ERA minus. You guys know these terms? These you guys know, right? Yeah. ERA minus, park adjusted ERA, simple. Second, weighted runs created plus. That's hitting 7th out of 30 teams. Defensive runs saved. 5th. Base running runs. I just wanted to cover everything. 7th, because maybe they're just very slow and that's why they stunk. So 2nd, 7th, 5th, 7th. Where should this team rank among major league teams, knowing these things? 7th at worst, right? Like, how could they be worse? If you combine all these things, how could they be worse than 7th? And yet, in the real world, they were. And I don't even want to do their regular record at the end of the season, 82 and 80, because that's not where they were. They won 20 of their last 27 to finish that. And they won that much. This is another thing to think of. They won those games when all was lost, 20 of 27. When it mattered, they could not win. They were 62 and 73 through August. They were consistently all year long, 3 games under 500, 9 games under 500. It didn't work. And you know what? I saw Juan Soto being interviewed last week at Yankees camp. They're asking him what happened. He has no idea. He says, geez, we tried. Xander Bogaerts, guy who's been on championship clubs, said, we were really trying. We weren't not trying. And you can look at them and say, oh, maybe this, maybe that, but we don't know. There are things we still don't understand. So I just wanted to point that out as we get more and more granular into the data, as we get into smaller and smaller things that are worthwhile, right? Swing plane for a hitter, pitch sequencing, grip on the baseball, ball will go that way, ball will go that way. It'll come in the same spot. Where's pitching ninja? Comes in the same spot, then it curves this way, it curves that way. We're digging deeper into all these things and they matter. But there are still big questions that are unanswered, including these guys. All throughout baseball, Steve Cohen, richest owner in baseball, is still wondering what the hell happened. #1 payroll in the history of the sport. Tore it down midseason. That's how bad it was. A.J. Preller, mover and shaker, one of the best scouts, one of the best baseball minds in the business, still wondering what happened. And we still don't know. It was on the field. It happened moment by moment. It just didn't happen within the data. It didn't make sense. And yet it happened. John Mozeliak of the Cardinals, one of the smartest, most successful GMs in baseball, still wondering what happened. It all kind of happened piece by piece. And I found something that I think helps explain it and maybe gives insight into where to go. Because as I've often said, I said this about analytics long ago. It got people's attention. I said, by the way, like where runs are scored, how they're scored, what's important for a hitter. The answers to these questions are worth tens of millions of dollars. The answers to these questions are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And not just for baseball, for everything. I got to hit the next thing. This was written about Tolstoy, who wrote War and Peace. This was in a book looking at an event, and I'll tell you the event in a moment. The great drama of the Napoleonic Wars, Tolstoy wrote, came about step by step, incident by incident, moment by moment, emerging from an infinitely varied set of unimaginably different circumstances, and was perceived in its entirety only when it became a reality, a past event. That's the confirmation bias. That's narrative. When it's done, it might make sense. Now, the Padres still don't make sense to me. But when it's done, it normally makes sense. But can you figure out what's happening while it's happening, before it's happening? Those answers are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. By the way, this was written about, anybody have any idea what this could be written about? It's written about a battle, written about the Battle of the Midway in the Pacific Ocean, the decimated US Navy against the mighty Japanese Empire. And the United States took out 4 of the Japanese 6 carriers in their Navy, changed the outcome of the war. Japanese Empire had gone 10 years unbeaten, unstopped, unfettered throughout that half of the planet. And they got stopped at Midway. And it didn't make sense. Only when you go back and you look moment by moment, incident by incident, did it make sense. So I'll just say to you, as you guys now go off and you want to get careers in baseball and other places, this is a good place to think independently. And as we get smaller and smaller, remember, there are big, big questions that are still unanswered. I want you guys to enjoy yourselves, have fun. I look forward to speaking with you guys, and I look forward to doing a panel bright and early tomorrow morning, and we'll get into baseball. Thanks you, Frank. Thank you very much.